Remember this story because it's very important that we do. The story is about this particular GameStop stock. Important. People are going to look at it and say, oh, what's the big deal? What's the big deal about it? Reddit activists scaring Wall Street. And it's a beautiful thing. It shows that we are built on sand. It shows that our economic system is a fraud for those who are able to manipulate it. It shows that that is what we've been, and it continues to show that you, my brothers and sisters out there, you the secretary, you the garbage man, you the person sweeping floors, you the engineer, you the lawyer, you the doctor, you guys that make society function have been used. I mean, yeah, some of you own stocks. I mean, I've owned stocks. I've owned a lot of these things in the past. I'm all the way down now because of this. But, you know, the thing about it is this. The class that makes their living solely on stock, solely on money markets, solely on instruments of finance, instruments of capital, the ones that do nothing in this world. Finally, I should say, the racket could come down if we get more people in Reddit following this modal. Wall Street bets. That's Reddit screen. I just sent them a little message saying, hey guys, I love you guys. You guys are going to be my topic today. You guys are going to make the point. I tell you what, let me play the video. I want to show you how the system works, what it really is about, because a lot of people look at it as a black box, as something that they are not privy to or something that is too complicated for them to understand. If you're a secretary, your job and your knowledge is quite a bit more complicated than the guys who play shorts, puts, and all these other parts of the financial industry. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to talk to you about it. So if stocks scare you, don't, because it's simple. If you're a secretary, you're smarter. If you are a garbage man who can figure out which garbage to pick up first, you're smarter. Those guys that just built their money off of capital, that wear the two-piece suits and think they're the masters of society, not them. You are. You're the smart one. But anyhow, let's go ahead and play the video. And after we play that, we'll come back and talk about the markets.
An army of users from the social media platform Reddit is turning the stock market on its head in what The Verge is calling an online tug of war. Regular folks using apps that allow them to make trades directly without going through something like a financial advisor are pumping cash into companies that Wall Street usually bets against. They short. And they are winning. Normally cheap stocks like GameStop have soared nearly 700% in the past 2 weeks. Joining me now is New York Times columnist and co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box, Andrew Ross Sorkin. So I think I'm understanding what's going on, but break it down for us.
This is Occupy Wall Street, but playing with money. So a group of folks, what started out was a group of folks on Reddit decided that they were going to take down hedge funds that had been betting against the stock, for example, of GameStop. And they effectively have bid up the shares by using the options market, and they have won. They have actually created billions of dollars of losses for hedge funds. And in the process, they have turned a company that had a $3 stock within the past year into something that is now at about $300, about 20. Now they've turned this company, which is a money-losing company, into a company that's worth over $22 billion with a B. And I will tell you, I've never seen anything like it. I'm concerned about it deeply because when the music stops, somebody is going to be left without a seat. And the likely loser is actually not going to be the hedge funds. It's actually going to be, quote unquote, the protesters in this case.
So explain that, because what I can gather from my rudimentary reading on this is that the intention here is to take down the hedge funders. They want to make them lose so much money that they can't operate any longer, that they feel the pain. But when the music stops, as you said, and say there's a Reddit user that's still holding on to a ton of GameStop stock priced at a number that is not reflective of the market value, what happens to them? They're
going to be the loser, and that's the issue. This stock is trading now at about $300 a share. You know, we could argue what it's really worth. Maybe it's worth $10, $20, $30, maybe $40 even, but it's clearly not worth where it is today by a square mile. And the question is, who's going to get hurt when those shares begin to tumble? We're already seeing some of the big brokerage firms effectively limit the ability for retail investors to jump in and continue to bid up these shares using the options market. I should also mention that there have been a number of professional opportunists, if you will, that are starting to play this momentum as well, so they may lose. But you're seeing big names like Elon Musk take to Twitter and the Winklevoss twins really fanning the flames. And there's a real question as to where the regulators are in all of this. But it's a very interesting, almost philosophical issue at the moment, because it started with people who really did want to stick it to the man. They wanted to say, Wall Street, you've been sticking it to us, you've been manipulating us, we're going to manipulate you back. The question is, how does it end? Yeah,
it's interesting. The Fed chair was asked about it. Jen Psaki was asked about it at the White House news conference. I guess the bigger question is, we have no time left for it, but I'll ask it. How disruptive can this be in the long run? I think it could be very disruptive. The question is whether actually you find more groups go to encrypted channels to try to take on stocks in all sorts of ways, and what regulators do about it. I think that's the big next question. Is this limited to a GameStop? You mentioned a couple other stocks where this is starting to happen. How broad is this? And is this a sign of a top in terms of the market? Is there so much money floating around, almost too much money, that the market is gotten too frothy? And that's the other big question I think that's being asked today. Yeah, I like the way you put it. It's crazy. Wall Street. I can't even talk to you about it. It's nuts.
Okay, let me first answer Bridge, because Bridge says, so wait, the Reddit users will lose then? So what's the point? It didn't work. Nope. Listen to what he says, because what he says is sort of cagey. And the reason he's being cagey is because Wall Street, they are honestly in a panic, because the racket, if enough people know that Wall Street is a racket, it doesn't really work. Let me give an example. Let me explain shorting the market first. Shorting a stock, what it means. Let's say a stock is worth $10. And I really need to, yes, stock market is legalized gambling, and it's horrendous. But let me explain this and for those of you who know, forgive me. For those who don't know, they're learning something that will give them impetus to not believe the crap. The stock market being the bastion of our economy and all of that. The stock market is a method of stealing your worth. That's what the stock market is. So let me explain it to you. And by the way, I've been a part of the stock market as well. So all of us, to some extent, if you own some retirement a little bit, you dip your toes in, but the people that make a killing out of it are the folks who do nothing in society. But let me explain to you what they did is the following. A stock, you know what a stock is. A stock, technically speaking, should just be a piece of a company. So let's say I form, let's say our PDR posse. We decided to capitalize on our PDR posse. What we did is we said, we want to buy a whole lot of equipment and all of that, and we don't want to take out a loan. We want to get investors to come in. And these investors will come in and say, okay, I will give you $10,000. We'll invest $10,000 to build you up, and all we're looking for is a little stipend every so often. There's nothing wrong with that, right? You give a little bit of money and you get a little bit of interest. I mean, in pieces, it's good, all right? So you buy stocks. So what should the value of a stock be? The value of a stock should, technically speaking, be the total assets of the company divided by the amount of outstanding stocks. But in market talk, they like to add things like future value and all those kinds of things to the stock to give it some sort of a you know, and they'll give you reasons why they say you have to think of the goodwill of the company and its future earnings. And there's this other thing called EBITDA, earnings before taxes. And I mean, there are all these technical terms that these guys create simply to create financial instruments. Listen to what I'm saying. The value of a stock should be nothing more than, if that company is liquidated, what is it that somebody will get if that company is liquidated? That is a mathematical number. If we get rid of that company today, those people who own stocks in that company, how much money will they get? That piece of paper is equivalent to that piece of a company. Some people would say, well, what about a software company that has don't have a lot of assets? Then the reality is a software company with a small amount of assets, the stock for that company should be next to nothing. The value of a personal stock should be next to nothing. And they say, but yes, but it makes a lot of money. Yes, it does make a lot of money. And you know what? That money should go into income, not the capitalization of the stock to hide income, but that amount of money that company makes should go directly every year to the person who owns the stock and the person who owns the company and the people who work in the company. You see, remember, we had some talks about abstraction a few days ago. We make stealing from people an abstraction. And the way we created the stock market was a method of stealing from people that it looks like it has some mathematical value. But we've added a whole lot of stuff so that we could find ways to rip you off. But anyhow, so shorting a stock. We know what a stock is now. Stock is what a piece of that company. The price of that stock goes up and goes down based on crazy things that they talk about the company. Oh, is the company selling a lot? Is the company not selling a lot? That should have nothing to do with the price of the stock. It should have everything to do with the amount of income you get based on holding that stock. But I digress and I continue. Sure, let's say the stock is worth $10. And I think that stock price is going to go down. What I would do is I would go to a market maker, broker, and I'll say, hey, I want to borrow 10 stocks from you, let's say, at $10. So I give you $100 to buy those 10 stocks from you. And then I immediately sell those 10 stocks for $10 to somebody else. And then I'm sitting down there with that $100 that I had. You know, I haven't done anything. Eventually, I have to give this guy back the stock that I borrowed from him. I borrowed the stock from him at $10 a piece, which means it cost me $100. I sold it to this person, and he gives me $100. Now it's time to give back the stock. I give this guy that I borrowed this, that I sold the stock to at $100. I only have to pay him $50 now because that's all the stock is worth now. So I have pocketed $50. That's what shorting means. And you have all these hedge funds that they would go out looking at companies all over the place. And then they'll say, what is that company worth? Oh, we think the price is going to drop. And sometimes they actually force the price to drop by them betting against that stock. Many people start to think that stock is no good and the price starts to fall. And many good companies have been taken down by a short, okay? And when that short occurs, and remember, this has nothing to do with the company. This is just people manipulating stock market. This doesn't have anything to do with the workers at the company making money. It has nothing to do with who gets paid, whether the company's. It has nothing to do with that. It's just people on the top playing around with stocks who produce nothing, who create nothing for society. They're playing with that stock. So what did our boys and girls at Reddit do? They put on what's known as a short squeeze. So you think that stock is going to fall. We're going to show you something. We are going to get a posse of people. They have 3.3 million people in there. Yes, so stockbrokers can ruin a company. Yes, they can ruin a company. They can ruin a company to kingdom come. And remember, they produce nothing. All they do is make money out of financial instruments. And they have the best protection by our government. Stock market is a fraud. Always remember that. Anytime you see stock market, see fraud. A way to rip your value, a way to take your money away. Because remember, I tell you, these things have nothing to do with whether the company is working, is selling stock. I mean, sometimes they short a stock not because the company is not profitable. They'll short a stock because the company is not making as much money as they would like it to make, as much profit as they would like it to make. So it can be a profitable company, but if they set a target for profit and they think, it's not making it, let's short it, cause that company to drop in value. And I'll tell you all the dangers of that and what that means. So as it turns out now, we got these guys at Reddit doing the short squeeze. I love them. So what they say is we have 3 million people. All of us are going to buy a little bit of stock. And because the volume increases, supply and demand, As more people vie for a fixed amount of stock, the value goes up. As these, you notice Starkin said something else. Those opportunists start to see a movement in a stock. What do you think they do? They try to run on the bandwagon again as well. And then the stock price goes up. So our Reddit people starts to buy these stocks to get the value risen up. It's called a short squeeze because this guy was expecting the stock to go down. He borrowed stock and now he's going to have to pay back that stock at a higher price, an unlimitedly higher price. Because whatever he has to buy that stock back from, he's going to have to pay the guy who he borrowed the stock from. So let's say he bought actually this is real now. They bought the GameStop stock at something like $15, $20, the short squeeze, the guys who shorted the market. It's worth $300 now. So what does he have to do? He bought it at $10. Now he has to buy it back from the person he sold it to at $300. So he would have lost $3,000 for every 10 stock that he bought. And that is called a short squeeze. So now he has to shuffle and he has to pay whatever the market will bear. Whatever those people at Reddit are willing to sell those stocks for is what he has to buy the stock for to go ahead and get into the game. It is beautiful. Now, here is the thing that Bridge MCP was talking about. And Bridge, this is where I want to calm everybody down, because they said, well, Sorkin just said, well, the Redditors are going to lose anyway, because eventually when the stock goes back to the appropriate price, you know, those people who are the last one holding the bag are going to be held holding the bag. Ironically, the 3 million people may buy 1 and 2 or 3 stocks. Let me give an example. If somebody tells me, I want to bring down a hedge fund because they produce nothing, they do nothing, they just rip people off, will you help us? And they we are asking people to give $5, $10, $15, $20, $30. And we're going to pool our money together to bring this stuff down. Great. We're going to bring that hedge fund down. So you lose $100, you use $50 or whatever. But guess what? Most of those Redditors are not going to lose the money because the Redditors are called the catalysts. What are the catalysts? You see, you have to remember, the guys on Wall Street are that smart. It's just that the game is rigged. But they're not that smart. They work on momentum. That's what I didn't show that other video. They work on momentum. They see something happening and their charts say, oh, there's momentum on this stock. And they run and they buy it. And these Reddit guys are getting ready for the exit. They know how much stock there is out there. They know how much stock is still shorted. So when they're coming close to the end of the shorted stock, they know that they're coming near the end of the game, because there are no more people that have to buy the stock at any cost. So when the shorts start to deplete, they know, okay, we've done our job. We've taken a $10 billion bite out of these guys. There are a lot of these Redditors that have paid off their student loans. They have paid off their car note. They have paid off all these things. Okay? They've done that. People say, oh, they got free money too, right? Yeah, they did. And I wanted them to. I want everybody out there who has the ability to do those things for this transition period to go ahead and do it. You know why? Because that is the only way we are eventually going to reach an equitable economic system. Not an economic system that has a stock market where you have people who do no work, who produce nothing, who have no intellect, who does nothing. The secretary gets up every morning and he or she jumps into that car and they head to the freeway. They have to tolerate the traffic and they don't even want to give them minimum wage. And these bombs out there that are just behind a laptop looking at charts, killing, playing around with people's livelihood. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.